Welcome to Thursday. I'm excited that you're all sitting with your It's Thursday partners. And I know this is going to be a really wonderful day because of how it's Thursday, which is also Fake Friday. Anyway, so this is Mrs. Agnello from the past, and I want to talk to you about conflict. Right? So some fisticuffs, some fighting. What is conflict? Wait, hold everything. Cornell Notes, page 28. Set it up now. If you need to pause me, do it. Okay, so you're all set up for Cornell Notes. If you didn't do that now, page 28, label it, put it in your table of contents, make it happen. Okay, so we're talking about conflict. What is conflict? Don't take notes on this. This is just a little intro. So when have you had a conflict? You've had conflicts with me when you haven't turned in your homework, or you show up to my class late, or you act like a loser schlub. Okay, you've had conflicts with your mom, or with whoever says, make your bed, do the dishes. You've had conflicts with those people because you're not like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Sometimes you're like, no, okay? So you've had conflicts. You've also experienced conflicts in media, in books, in TV, in movies, in magazines, whatever, right? Oh my God, J-Lo said this about so-and-so. Conflict. Oh my God, Katniss loves Peeta, but there's a problem. Conflict. Okay, so conflict is all over the place. It's frankly what makes things interesting. So before we deep dive into conflict, we need to get a couple of terms right off the bat. So number one, term numero uno. Put this guy is going to be the heading side of your Cornell Notes. It is the protagonist. Say it, protagonist. Protagonist, protagonist. If you're not saying it, say it. Protagonist. He's a pro. She's a pro. Whoever the protagonist is a pro at being a No. Anyway. So the protagonist is the leading character, so sometimes known as the hero. Not always a good guy. This is the person who undergoes a change. If you need to pause, do so now. I'm going to put this down. Okay. So the protagonist undergoes a change. When you read Harry Potter, it's Harry Potter, right? His name is on the book. Usually if their name is on the book, they're going to be the protagonist, okay? It's not called The Voldemort Chronicles, okay? He's not the protagonist. So we're looking at Harry Potter is the protagonist. He's the person who undergoes a change. He learns about himself. He develops all these friendships. He's the changer. He's the protagonist. When we look at the Hunger Games, the protagonist is Katniss. It's not the Capitol. It's not her mom. It's not her sister. The protagonist is Katniss. She's the one who goes through a change. The protagonist is the one that, as readers, we identify with. So moving on, the opposite of the protagonist is the antagonist. It's the person or force in direct opposition to the antagonist. Not always a bad guy. Not always even a human, right? For instance, one of the many antagonists to Katniss is the horrible monster dog things. Not human. Not a guy, not a human. Anyway, antagonist. If you know the word antagonize, like, oh my God, you're antagonizing me. It's because you are being an antagonist, a person or force in direct opposition to the protagonist. These are people who are going head to head, or, I don't know, head to dog breath. I don't know. Anyway, so now that we've defined those terms, protagonist being generally the good guy, the hero, the person that we identify with, and antagonist being the person or thing that is opposing the protagonist. Okay, so those terms out of the way, let's look at conflict. Conflict is the inherent incompatibility between the objectives of two or more characters or forces. What? Let's go back. Inherent, like the built-in, that's what inherent means. Like the inherent meaning of this, blah, blah, blah. The built-in. Inherent is the built-in. Incompatibility means they can't get along. They can't be buddies. So the built-in hatred, opposition, fighting between the objectives or goals of two or more characters. So the conflict is when protagonist and antagonist are all like, I want different things than you. That's conflict. If you don't have that in your notes, get it in there. What the conflict does is that it creates interest and tension by adding doubt. We don't know if Katniss is going to defeat the monster dog things. We don't know if Harry's going to get Voldemort out of the scene. We don't know. And it's how the plot works and is interesting and awesome, or less than stellar if you're not into those books. Anyway, moving forward into further information about the conflict. These are in your notes, right? There can be more than one conflict in a narrative. There can be dozens. Okay? But solving the conflict provides catharsis or emotional release for the reader. And let me help you think about that. So catharsis is when something's being built up in a text, and then you get a satisfying resolution. So when we're looking at Harry Potter, Harry defeating Voldemort makes us feel, oh, good. Finally, that chump's out of the way. When Katniss finally makes it out of the arena with Peeta, we feel so much release and we relax. That is catharsis. The resolution of the conflict or solving the conflict usually provides that. Not always, and if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, that's okay. We'll get there. Ultimately, though, what you need to know about conflict is that it is two or more people or forces going head to head. They hate each other, they're mega beefing, and it's a problem. So there's lots of examples in pop culture. Some of my favorite are the X-Men. If you think of Professor X, his goal is to have the X-Men live alongside the humans. However, Magneto's evil plan is to conquer the humans and make them the slaves of the X-Men. These are incompatible. There is literally no way that Professor X and Magneto can win. Both of them. They can't win at the same time. Just not going to work. If you're trying to think of loopholes, stop. You're thinking too much. Okay? Conflict. They can't get along. They can't both get what they want and get along. It's not going to work. Incompatibility. Inherent incompatibility. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause the video, get a little summary in your notes. There's 4 types of conflict that we're about to go over, and you're actually going to watch a video to clarify and add more examples. So I want you not to stress out about getting all of the notes, although it'll definitely be easier to take notes from my slides than from the videos. So pause the video, summarize. Take a second. Okay, good. Second is over. You've done your summary. If you haven't, go do it. I'm not kidding. This is hard. Protagonist, antagonist, conflict. They're big terms that you're going to deal with for the rest of your academic career. You need to really get them. Okay, so let's look at the types of conflict. There are 2 primary types. There's internal, or inside, and external. So of these 4, the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, are external. The character versus self is going to be the internal one. Okay, so these are going to be your 4 headings in your Cornell notes, and then you're going to take the notes slide by slide. Okay, so here's heading 1, right, of types of conflict. Character versus character. I'm going to give you a second, just shut up and let you read this so you can write it down and make it good. Okay, cool. If you needed more time, pause. Okay, so this is going to be an external conflict pitting 2 folks against each other, right? We see superheroes doing this. We see the Wicked Witch of the West and, what's her name? The girl, Dorothy. We see the big bad wolf trying to eat up Little Red Riding Hood. Don't eat me. No. Okay, that is a type of conflict. It is a character, a human-like character. The wolf is a wolf, but he acts like a human, right? He's super personified, right? A human-like character versus a human-like character. Talking dogs are fine, whatever, so long as they're both acting like people. So that's type 1. That's the most common one. That's the one that's Harry versus Voldemort. That is Katniss versus the dogs. We're going to come back to Katniss in a second. Here's the second. Woohoo! Character versus society is an external conflict between one human or a group of humans and a man-made institution such as slavery, bullying, the government. So take your notes. So what we're looking at with character versus society is Katniss versus the entire capital establishment, right? Not Katniss fighting specifically against Cato or whatever other chumps are in there, but Katniss trying to defeat or being in conflict with the capital and all that represents. You see it in The Giver. You see it in Brave New World. You see it in any dystopia, The Maze Runner, all of those, Divergent, all of those things where it's society that's hurting people. That's where you're going to see your character versus society sorts of conflicts. You also see this all the time in human existence, right? Not just in media, but like the reason that more African American and Latino men are incarcerated than white men sets us up for a person versus society conflict. Feminism is a reaction to women versus a society that does not help them and love on them. KIP is our collective group of people fighting against educational inequities brought about by, you guessed it, society. So this is a big one. This is the injustice one. Okay. Moving past that into a little bit more discrete ones, we're looking at character versus nature. This is again an external conflict between a human, usually one human, but can be more than one, and a force of nature, such as a tidal wave, a non-human animal, winter, whatever. So it's important to draw the distinction between the non-human-like animal and human-like animals. Human-like animals are going to be character versus character. Non-human-like animals, like a grizzly bear, that's going to be nature. Okay, a tidal wave, a tsunami, an earthquake. Oh no, Jimmy fell down the well. What's his conflict? It's with gravity. Okay, that's going to be nature. Okay, Lassie, come save him. Oh, Lassie, you're so nice. You guys, oh my God, you have no idea what that is because you're children and you have no idea what Lassie is. If you know who Lassie is, raise your hand right now, like really, really high, and then let other people who like haven't caught up to this part of the video look at you like a weirdo. Okay, I'd like you to do that. If you don't, I'll be disappointed. Just saying. Anyway, nature's pretty obvious. The only tricky bit is making sure that it is a nature sort of opposition as opposed to a, talking bear. The last type is the trickiest type and the least obvious, of course, and that is character versus self. This is the internal one, the inside one. This is the only one. All the others are external. The internal conflict pitting a single human, just one. I'm sure there's exceptions, but a single human against his or her own personal challenges, such as addiction, self-doubt, or lack of self-control. So this is what you see when you watch Rocky, or any of those other like feel-good sports movies where like the ragtag team of misfits is facing such incredible odds, and like they self-doubt and they like have like, so many doubts that like, inevitably one of them wants to quit. And it's because it's not somebody saying like, quit or I'll break your arm. It's their own self saying, I need to quit because I'm a loser. That is character versus self. You see this in Rocky, right? Dun, 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 dun. Rocky was a loser, not because he was a weakling, not because somebody kicked his butt, but because he didn't have any self-confidence. I know at least one of you is familiar with the character versus self conflict in The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is a fantastic book. Cannot recommend it enough. It is so good. This is where you see addiction come into play. If you, and I hope this isn't the case for you, but if you know somebody who struggles with addiction, that's themselves that they have to overcome. It's not the alcohol or the substances that they have to fight against. It's their own dependency on them. So character versus self can be the type of conflict that can really connect with people, that people tend to really dig into and struggle with on a personal level, even in media. So make sure you've squared away those notes. If you haven't, rewind. Let me give you some next steps. What I want you to do, now that you've got your notes all squared away, is go watch the videos that I posted online. There's 2 of them. And if it's like, duh, okay, just skim through them, okay? I want you to have as good an opportunity as possible to get this right, because this is big. It's going to be on our common assessment, which is coming up in like 2 weeks. Oh my God, how do we have so many tests? Okay, that was a character versus society, because tests are part of society. Anyway, you're going to want to get this. It'll make sense as soon as you focus on it. When you're finished watching those videos, I want you to work with your Thursday partner to determine what type of conflict is in the short stories, the fables, the myths, the small packet that you're getting. It's 2 double-sided sheets. They're stapled. Please don't screw this up. I cherish you. I know you'll do your best. I really can't wait to see how you guys have performed. Please remember that you need to finish everything by today, by the end of class today. You should have more than adequate time. Okay, I love you so much. I miss you all.